All right, Steeler fans, welcome back. It is time for the mailbag segment. For those watching on YouTube, because I put this segment on our YouTube channel, you can find us on YouTube. Go to Steel Curtain Network just by going to youtube.com. You'll find us. You can subscribe to the channel for free. You can like all the videos and see this. You'll see I am not in my normal surroundings. There's no terrible towel behind me. I'm in a bedroom because I'm on vacation, and I'm still doing this show because I care about the Ride or Die crew. We're all one. We're all in this together. I'm not going to let you down. And so I'm delivering this on vacation. Let's get this show on the road. You all have a lot of questions. First and foremost, Jeff Coons, greetings from Not Mad Canada. Jeff, you seem very excited that Cameron Johnston had the best hit during Saturday's game. Is there any chance the Steelers insert him as the punter / outside linebacker 4 with the retirement of Marcus Golden? I'm kidding, but feel free to ask the source. And then he said, thanks for all the punter talk on the weekend and Monday podcast. Weasel Boy, he's talking about Jordan Berry, never got this much love from the Ride or Die crew. Thank you, Jeff. I don't think we're going to have Cameron Johnston as a outside linebacker 4 anytime soon, but I do like where your head's at. Let's go to Believers, the Ride or Die crew poll of the week. What was the worst part of the preseason game? First, fumbled snaps. Second, special teams miscues. Third, inability to finish drives. Or 4, Fautanu's injury. I'm going to say that I actually voted for the special teams miscues were probably the most perplexing. They were awful, just atrocious. Outside of Cameron Johnston's tackle, which was just alluded to by Jeff Coons, there was nothing to talk about that was positive on special teams. That's what I went with. All right, Brian Haynes, he asked several questions. We're going to get through all of them. He's hearing that Troy will start at right tackle. What do you think will be the starting offensive line in week 1? I'm hoping it's Bradrick Jones at left tackle, Isaac Seumalo at left guard, Zack Frasier at center, right guard is James Daniels, and right tackle is Troy Fautanu. That's what I'm hoping for. I can't say that I guarantee that. All right, Brian also asked, are you surprised about the Fautanu news? I'm not surprised. He left the game. I think it's a pretty decent spot in terms of the injury and the duration in which he'll be out. Next for Brian, I'm at the beach for my birthday this week, 35 on the 11th. Happy birthday to you. You're at the beach the same week I am. Do you prefer swimming in the ocean or swimming in the pool? I like both. The ocean is a lot of fun, though. I've always loved it. My wife's not crazy about it. She gets beat to hell by the waves, but I like it. I think it's a lot of fun. So if I'm at the beach, I like the beach, but I also love going to the pool no matter what. Another one from Brian. Do you feel like we have a top 5 team in the AFC? How about the league? The league, no. AFC, probably on the outside looking in at like 6 or 7, but that can change quickly. There's, again, a lot of questions that need to be answered, as I mentioned in the first half of the podcast. Okay, let's go to last one from Brian. Adam Sandler and Jim Carrey are both up for the lead role in Ben Roethlisberger's life story on film. Who plays him better, and do you go see it? I think Adam Sandler would probably do a better job of being a quarterback, and he's already been one in the longest yard. And yeah, I would probably go see it. I think it'd be funny. If those guys were in it, yeah, definitely, for sure. All right, let's go to Matthew. I don't know how to say his last. I think it's, is it Friday? I'm sorry. My apologies. We're just going to call you Matthew. And he said, do we know how much experience Field is taking, has under center? So how much experience does he have taking snaps under center? I know at Ohio State it was mostly shotgun, but I'm not as familiar with his time in Chicago. Also, thanks for giving me my Steelers fix the past few off seasons. This is my go-to for Pittsburgh news. Matthew, I thank you for listening, because you could listen to a lot of different podcasts out there and you're choosing mine, and that doesn't go unnoticed. So in terms of that's a really good question. How often is Justin Fields under center in Chicago? I think that probably due to his athleticism, most coaches probably want him in the shotgun, pistol formation, something like that. They can run their RPOs and do all that fun stuff. So I'm going to look into that, though. I'm going to look into that. I see how many times he was in the shotgun in Chicago. Maybe there's a correlation there. Let's go to Heath Davis. He asked several. He said, Jeff, enjoyed the winners in Le Who Is There Hers podcast. I used an Ace Ventura gift for this tweet for the mailbag segment. That's why he did that for this past weekend. I'm not too worried after the first preseason game. These are all just tune-up games to get us to the best 53-man roster. What was the most surprising thing you saw in game 1? The most surprising thing I saw in game 1 were just the general miscues. I was expecting sloppy play, but I wasn't expecting Justin Fields and the starters in that game to fumble 2 snaps. I wasn't expecting Quez Watkins, a veteran in the NFL, to try and field a punt that is 10 yards over his head and fumble it. I just don't understand that. That's probably the most surprising thing. Next from Heath. Second, as a UF fan, it's cool to see a few Gators on the roster this preseason. I think Jefferson and Moon make the team. They also have Jacob Copeland and LaMichael Pirine. I'd like to see Copeland get some work as a return man. Do you see him or Pirine making the final cut? I hate to tell you this, Heath, but I don't. I don't see them making the final cut, barring, again, injuries happening ahead of them. Let's go to the next one. What are your thoughts on the new offense so far? How do you think our offensive athletes stack up against the rest of the teams in the division? And when you're trying to compare offensive athletes, I mean, you've got some really good offensive groups in the AFC North. You talk about Jerry Jeudy being added with Amari Cooper, and if Nick Chubb is healthy, and I think it's Dante Foreman is up there in Cleveland. And then you have the guys in Cincinnati, T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, and just crazy talented. I think the Steelers should be up there. I think their running back room is probably better than the rest of the division. I also like George Pickens up there with almost everyone maybe outside of Jamar Chase. Yeah, this is good. That's a good question. That's a really good question. I think the offense is going to be good. I think it's going to look different, but I think it's going to look different in a good way. All right, let's also go to the final question from Heath. When is the Steel Curtain Network first annual charity golf tournament? And can I get paired up with Troy Polamalu in the scramble? So this is actually something, Heath, I'm glad you said this, because this is actually something I have not forgotten about this. Heath, you brought this up. You actually sent me a message about it I think it was a year ago, and said you would love to help in any way. And I thought a lot about this. And, over the Hall of Fame weekend when I forget the gentleman, the player who got in, he got into the Hall of Fame, but he's dying from ALS. And I think back to my friend. I was like, you know what? If I were to do a tournament, I would send the money for ALS research. That's what I would do. And then you tie in Tunch Ilkin, who had the illness as well. I think that would be worthy. I haven't forgotten about that. Trust me, I haven't forgotten about that. All right, let's go to Thomas. Did we set our standards too high on Bradrick Jones, or is he just not as good as we thought? I can't say that Bradrick Jones is or is not as good as we thought when I feel like the coaching staff at times is jerking this guy around. That's what I really feel. When I say that, I'm talking about the fact that I think that Bradrick Jones would benefit from being, hey, you're the left tackle, right? So go over there, play left tackle, learn it, experience it, get those reps. Instead, they're jerking him around. Now come to the right side. Oh, and then when you're done there, go over and get some reps at left. I know he's athletic. I know he's talented. And I know he played left tackle in college, but it wasn't nearly enough. Everyone said it coming out. The guy's raw. He's inexperienced. He needs to go to a good team. I think he did that, but I think the team needs to stand up for him and say, you're our guy. You are our guy. Not Dan Moore. You, the guy that we traded up in the 2023 draft to get. All right, sorry I went off on a tangent there. Let's go to Zach Farnsworth. Hey, Jeff. Based off training camp and the one preseason game so far, which rookie do you think will have the greatest impact on the team at the beginning of the season and which one by the end of the season? Thanks. Okay, so the beginning of the season, I'm going to go with Zack Frasier. We saw, and anyone that watched the game last Friday saw a huge difference in the offensive line from when Herbig was in to when Frasier was in. So I'm going to say Zack Frasier early. By the end of the season, this is a tough question. By the end of the season, I would say it's going to be a toss-up between Fautanu, who I think could be very dominant on the right side, and Peyton Wilson. And I also wouldn't rule out Roman Wilson either, but we just haven't seen him yet because he's still coming back from the ankle injury. That's my guess. Those are my guesses. Thank you very much, Zach. I appreciate it. Let's go to Tendercat. He has a couple questions. With Jordan Love's new contract, do you think Fields will try to use that as leverage for next year to sign a new contract, especially if Fields starts to play and shows some serious progression? And if he does, would the Steelers pay it? I think that if Justin Fields gets the opportunity, so again, Russell gets hurt, Russell doesn't play well, Fields comes in and Fields does play well. That's the key here. He shows up and plays well. If that's the case, then I think that Justin Fields will ask for that type of contract, but I think the Steelers would also be willing to pay it. If he's playing that type of football, they're going to be fine paying a quarterback contract. They'll figure it out. So I think that they would be, if they have that guy, if Justin Fields is that guy, hey, we don't have to worry about quarterback for another 10 years. They'll be more than happy to pay that contract. Absolutely more than happy. Let's go to the other one from Tender Cat. I've been listening from afar. Have some questions again. Sorry, I did this in reverse order. He said, how long do you think it will take the Steelers fan base to start chanting for Justin Fields to start, assuming Wilson does in fact keep the starting job and doesn't do well? This will be very similar, in my opinion, to the leash from a fan base perspective that Mitch Trubisky had when Kenny Pickett was the backup. It'll be very similar. Mitch Trubisky, okay, you win games, we'll be happy. You throw touchdowns and not interceptions, we'll be fine. You lose games, you start playing like crap, we are going to want the other guy to come in. Because Kenny Pickett at the time hadn't played poorly in the preseason. You think about training camp, Justin Fields hasn't played poorly in training camp. People are going to want to see that player. It's just the way it is. So we'll be week 4, week 5. It all depends on what Russ does. If he goes out and is sharp and is winning games, there's not going to be anyone calling for Justin Fields because why would you? The guy that's in there is winning. All right, let's go to Todd Hall with the new kickoff format. How would you even do an onside kick? Well, that's a good question, and the answer is you can't. It's against the rules until the fourth quarter to do an onside kick, and you have to tell the opposition that you're doing it. That's right. You have to tell them we are kicking an onside kick. It reminds me when I was a kid, when we would play backyard football and it was fourth down, we said, are you punting or grunting? That's what we would say. You're either punting the ball or you're going for it. Grunting. You're going to grunt, try and get that ball across the yard to gain. And when you declared whether you were punting or grunting, you could not change it. That's exactly what they're doing. So they're saying that if you're going to go an onside kick, you got to kick the onside kick and you have to declare it. I don't like it, but that's the way it is. All right, Ed Cunningham. Hey, Jeff, I love the idea of Ayuk, but is it me or does Khan seem hyper-focused on the short term? Will the deals he's making serve us long term as well? If they give up a bunch of draft picks for Ayuk, where will that leave us next year with no quarterback secured? We would only have no quarterback secured if they can't find one of these two guys that's on the roster right now to stay. That's the only way. So unless Russell Wilson and Justin Fields go out there, suck it up, they aren't worth their weight in whatever, and they can't get the job done, will the Steelers not have a quarterback secured? Okay, but I think that Omar Khan has proven that even if he gives short little 2-year contracts or 1-year contract, he is more than willing to negotiate and trying to find a home long-term for that player if the shoe fits. It's a big if, though. Let's go to Joshua Petrick. I don't really want to judge Nate Herbig on 2 bad snaps that weren't entirely his fault. Obviously, Zach is the future, but I would like to see a couple drives of Nate without fumbles so we can actually see what he brings. I think that's fair. I think it's fair. And not only is it fair, I think it's just, but I also want to see if Zack Frasier is the future. And I think we all admit that he is. Then Nate Herbig is going to be the backup. So Nate Herbig, you want to see your backup be capable. I agree with you. I want to see some Nate Herbig without the fumbles and issues there. Let's go to James. He asked, Jeff, how's the Oklahoma Joe's grill holding up? Have you grilled or smoked anything unique lately? Nothing unique, just whole chickens. Want to do some fish, but fish doesn't take long, so I'm going to probably do that at the same time as I'm doing something else with a similar wood flavor. I love applewood, so I'm probably going to do some pork. Pork pairs well with applewood, and I might throw in some salmon or something like that and do that as well. I like pork butts. I want to try a brisket, but that would be a different type of wood, maybe a mesquite, something like that. I'll keep you all updated. Check out the grilling thoughts, Steelers grilling thoughts on Twitter and our YouTube shorts. Let's go to King Tibbs. Hey, Jeff, did you notice that Cam's Not Just Football podcast is officially sponsored by your old boss, BTSC? How dare he go to a rival cast? So those that didn't see this, Cam Hayward, his podcast, Not Just Football, they have gone with Vox Media. And yes, I used to be employed by Vox Media. They're not connected to the Behind the Steel Curtain, but they are now part of that SB Nation Vox Media family. He went to the highest bidder. What am I going to do? I'm just going to keep grinding. That's what I'm going to do. All right, let's go to Farmer. He says, hey, Jeff, I enjoy going to training camp. I enjoyed taking my teenage daughters to training camp. I'm hating the way unsupervised kids and teenagers yell and scream at the players for autographs like they are cattle. Should Steelers address this? Is it now part of the experience? Well, Farmer, I got to be honest, haven't been to training camp, and I really don't know what I can imagine because I've seen videos of what it's like. You'd probably have to ask someone that is more tenured at going to camp and saying, like, hey, this is what you want to do. Go to this spot. There's less people here. But I think sometimes the autograph seekers are nuts. Like, they are insane. And these are kids. So kids are kids, but there's people that'll sit outside of hotels where players are staying and stuff. And then adults will get kids to go up to try and get autographs. Just really weird, odd behavior. Let's go to Brandon Diaz. By the time this is recorded, Brandon Ayuk could be a Steeler. He could, but he's not as of this being recorded. But I hope not. Why are Steelers fans so dead set on getting him without first thinking about the cost we'll have to pay? Yeah, it's gonna take some money. It's gonna take some draft capital. We'll see. But they also see a really good player coming into the team, which is important as well. Next, Juju could come back as wide receiver, not as wide receiver 2. What are your thoughts? Yeah, our source said that he is interested. He's absolutely they're interested in him. There's a lot of questions. Is he healthy? Does he fit? But they're putting their feelers out. We'll put it that way. Let's go to Tom East. Jeff, it's been a bit, so watching Fields play, I was happy. Just clean it up. Kyle Allen should be a very good backup to keep. My question is, do you think the center position is Herbig's job to lose, or is it the rookie's day one start? Hashtag ride or die crew for life. Thank you very much, Tom. I'm going to say that the center position, I think it is actually a toss-up. And I think that Zack Frasier is going to win it. I think he's going to win the job. Nothing against Nate Herbig, but he's not a center by nature. He's a guard. Let's go to Jay Allen. He asks, assuming Ayuk stays in San Fran, which receiver do you think has the most receiving yards in 2024? Ayuk, Pickens, or Deontay Johnson? Great question. I'm going to actually say George Pickens over Ayuk and Johnson for most yards. Ayuk might have more touchdowns. Deontay Johnson might have more catches, but I'll take Pickens for yards because I think the play action pass, chuck it up to George, is going to be one of the primary sources of moving the football this upcoming season. So that's who I'm going to go with. Good question, though. Okay, let's go to Doc M. What positional storyline has not panned out as expected? Well, I think if you're being honest with yourself, ever since the NFL draft, everyone has assumed the Steelers were going to make a trade for a wide receiver. Everyone thought, okay, they're going to trade for a receiver. And here we are in August, getting ready for the second preseason game, and we're still having that same debate. So I think that storyline has not panned out as many would have expected. And last one, not Matt Canada, said, hey, Jeff, you spoke about the Steelers being interested in Juju. With the tight ends we have, would you rather have Freiermuth play a lot in slot receiver and have Washington as tight end in heavier packages, or would you like to see the Steelers go out and sign Juju and play that slot role? If they bring in Juju, I think what you have to do is you have to maximize those mismatches, and I like what you said about Darnell Washington, something that Arthur Smith likes to do. If he has a 2 tight end set, if he motions Freiermuth, let's say, across the formation, and now he's on top of Washington and then flanks out in the slot, well, if he carries a linebacker with him, I like that matchup. If he carries a corner with him, that's not good. I don't like that matchup. This is where you lean on a good quality coordinator to make the most of what happens. But if they bring Juju back and he's a team guy and he's healthy and he can still play, I'm fine with him being and having a role in that team. There's a lot of different ways you can skin that proverbial cat. All right, let's finish this up with the Steeler Fan 69 Comedy Hour. That's what I should call it. It's only 3. Here we go. He said, took my wife to Permane Brothers last night. When we were done, the waiter asked me if I wanted a box for my leftovers. I said, we could arm wrestle for them 2 out of 3. Get it? Do you want a box for your leftovers? Like boxing? I like it. Next, my son asked me what I knew about Galileo. I said, he's just a poor boy from a from a poor family. And then obviously he's talking about the Galileo from Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody. Good stuff. Pardon me for butchering that song, but nonetheless, I thank every single one of you that asked questions. We are gearing up for the regular season. You can tell, had 28 questions in that mailbag. I remember last year where there were 40 plus. And I always say, if you ask the question, I'm going to answer it. So that's every Wednesday here on the mailbag segment. Make sure you check out all of our podcasts on the Steel Curtain Network, because some on our audio only. Go wherever you get your podcasts, search Steelers or Steel Curtain Network. Subscribe, follow so that you don't miss a thing. And let's make this a grassroots movement. Tell a friend. You know someone's a Steeler fan. Tell them about the podcast. Tell them to listen to Let's Ride and all the other shows on the network. We do appreciate it. Make sure you check out the shows coming up, like the Steel City Insider today at 11 a.m. And we'll be back on Friday. I hope you all have a great rest of your week. You know, we finished it out. Be safe, be kind, and God bless. Go Steelers.